So I'll hand over to you. Olly Du Croz, Marketing Communications Manager at International Nepal Fellowship. Thank you very much.
Perfect, thank you. So yeah, as Richard and Roger were saying, my name is Olly Du Croz. I work as Marketing and Communications Manager at the International Nepal Fellowship. We're a health and development charity focused on remote communities in parts of Nepal where the landscape often looks a bit like it does in this photo. And to ensure that we are relevant to today's event for small charities, I'm glad to say that we do fit the NCVO's description. So our annual income is about 750,000, and whether that meets your description of your definition of a small charity or not, maybe different. As we've heard, there's a lot of variety in small charities in the UK. We do have a staff team. We've got 7 members of staff, 3 of whom are involved in fundraising. 2 of those are trust fundraisers essentially, and my marketing and communications role is mainly focused on individual giving, but obviously incorporates a lot of different things as required with the nature of working for a smaller organisation. Next slide, please. So to start, just a bit of background about INF, which, as you'll see, is hopefully relevant to today's conversation as well. So we're actually founded in the 1950s as an organisation that sent Christian missionaries to Nepal, mainly to work in healthcare while helping the Nepali church grow. The charity has continued to develop and evolve significantly during the intervening 70 years. And in 2018, INF's trustees decided to stop sending UK-based people to spend time in Nepal. So we now focus on partnering with like-minded Nepali organisations who share our values and deliver the work funded by our supporters. So that means that we now describe ourselves as a health and development charity, helping the most disadvantaged Nepalis, people and communities break free from poverty and suffering. Well, that strategic shift was primarily done to make INF relevant in the 2020s and beyond. And a lot of that was because of ideas around what healthy, locally led international development looks like. The hope was also that we would broaden our appeal and hopefully reach new markets and new donors who may be less motivated by our Christian identity than our traditional supporter base has been over the decades. So that was the plan in 2018. The world has had a few challenges since then, obviously. So the COVID pandemic, subsequent economic meltdown that we've seen have made us reassess what that progress means and what that looks like for us. But we are seeing some green shoots from institutional grants and some new individual donors as well. Next slide, please. So yeah, so as I said, we have been making some progress in the time since that kind of strategic decision was taken 4 or 5 years ago. There's been some positive work that's been done to retain donors, minimise attrition, and ensure that as supporters move away from our kind of old model of working and start giving purely to our partners' health and development projects. That's been a key thing that a lot of work has gone into. We've also been making the most of the digital shift that I'm sure lots of you would have seen happening, especially during the pandemic. So we're using email a lot more to drive engagement. We've continued to develop our website to improve online giving and the experience there. And we saw that have a massive impact during sort of COVID emergency appeals, responding to when the pandemic really affected Nepal, and with online giving increasing more than tenfold, fairly instantly during that time. Obviously, doing things like Zoom events with supporters and social media advertising as well, so making us more digitally available to supporters. And we've been alongside that, we've been developing our supporter journeys, which is very much still a work in progress. But some of the things that we've been doing about developing more effective and appropriate thanking, developing that online experience with post-donation web pages, improving the welcome journey for supporters and how we follow through with people on that, and various other aspects. Part of what has helped us on that journey is also that we moved to a new CRM system about 12 months ago. That's opened up some new tools to us. We're now using Beacon for those who are interested, and it's given us better visibility of supporter data. Next slide, please. But we have been left with this question of, do we really know our supporters, especially given the change in strategy from a few years ago? Do what we thought we used to know about our supporters, is that still true? Do we know if our newer donors are still motivated by our faith-based identity or not? And are some of those old INF assumptions that we made about people, are they still accurate? We also wanted to find out, if we could, if people are still as committed as we think they used to be. Are they happy with what INF now is compared to what it might have used to be when they started supporting us? And do they still trust us? Next slide, please. So those are some of the questions. So how do we go about learning that? Well, I'd say one of the big advantages of being a smaller organisation is that we need to make the most of any opportunities to glean qualitative insights from supporters. And sometimes that might feel a bit anecdotal or a bit random, but I just think it's so valuable because you can learn so much from any sort of interaction. So that's making the most of phone calls, emails to people, encouraging feedback. We put in regular communications, often things like, we really love to hear from you, and just encourage any feedback from supporters. As a little story on that, I recently emailed a new donor because we put a story on the website which was relevant to what this person had given to, and I was hoping to find out a bit more in response. And actually her reply gave me various insights, not only on how she'd come across INF, but also about what motivated her giving. So I just think that's really valuable, especially for smaller charities. We're also going to be starting a focus group. We're going to invite a small number of supporters, both long-standing supporters and newer donors as well, which will help us get a bit more additional direct input and feedback. However, we also wanted to get a bit smarter and a bit more data-driven in trying to get some quantitative data. And this is where Chase Light came into play. And one of our hopes for that as well was because it also has allowed us to benchmark data against how other charities perform, as well as learning how we score on various measurements that we've been given. So on the next slide, you will see what we can now see. So this is just an example of this is the dashboard that we can access on the Chase Light portal. There's all these various other screens that give data in response to other questions as well. The overall feeling is that it has been really encouraging. As you can see on that top graph, that red bar is us. So over the sort of total loyalty score, our ranking is 8th out of the 45 charities. Those are either people who have been part of the Chase Index about loyalty, have done primarily with bigger charities, and also the 5 pilot charities that were involved, that have been involved in Chase Light. So it was just really reassuring that actually our supporters are saying that they are as loyal as we hoped and thought they were. But it's really nice to have the data to back up some of that. If you go on to the next slide now, please. So the headline was, it was good news. And the data showed behind that ranking of 8th, that actually out of those 45 charities, we ranked number 1 in relation to trust specifically. So that was incredible news. I've been reflecting since that it takes a long time to gain trust and grow trust. It's very easy to lose trust, so that's something that we need to be very careful about. Make sure we don't score your own goals and never take the trust that supporters have in us for granted as well. Some of the other stats also showed that we ranked really well for people who intend to leave a legacy. It's probably quite safe to say that those trust scores correlate quite closely with those who intend to give a legacy. So it's nice to see that the result of that, and it also gives us confidence about the long-term sustainability of the charity as well. Those were some nice things. There is obviously room for improvement as well. So for those other key factors that Roger's talking about in terms of commitment and satisfaction, we didn't score as nearly as highly as we did for trust. I think we were just about above average on both of those. So that shows that in how we develop our supporter journeys from this point onwards, we need to make that experience of being an INF supporter even more fulfilling, and that's the sort of messaging that we will need to highlight and to go into our planning in the short term and medium term as well. But I think one of the bits of general good news for today is that it shows that we can make the most of being a small and rather niche international development charity and use that as a benefit. And we need to view our size as a strength instead of us seeing it as something that limits us, or even falling into the trap of using that as an excuse for things that we can't do. If you can move on to the next slide, please. So what happens next? We've only had the results quite recently, so we're still very much digesting them and working out what that really means and what plans that we can make as a result. So it's definitely not the end of the story, it's the start of the story in many ways. We will always be a work in progress. We know that there are things we need to improve on, and now we've got a bit more direction about the specific areas that are more important to improve on than others. And I think it's important to say with the audience today that as a smaller charity, you'll no doubt share my issues around lack of resources, lack of time, lack of money. There's always more we want to do, and there's always more that we can do. So I would just say, be kind to yourself. Take things one step at a time. We don't have the resources that the big charities can throw at campaigns, but we can make steps to learn more about our supporters, to reflect on what we find, put some plans into action, and then move forward in that way. And I'd say that to close, that I think that the Chase Light results have certainly encouraged me that being a small charity can indeed be our superpower.